The homepage is a great way for you to make a nice first impression for your visitors. And the first thing they see is probably this hero area. So we're going to put a little bit of extra effort into this, making it beautiful. So we have this nice background image with an overlay. We add a divider shape to the bottom. We have this big heading and these two call to action buttons. If we scroll down, you can see 3 blurbs with a nice hover effect that makes them lift from the surface on hover. We have a classic image to the left, text and button to the right area. We have a client or a custom slider with testimonials. And here we show the 3 latest news in a blog grid that is fetched dynamically and updated automatically when you add a post. Here we have a nice call to action area with a dark saddle background. We are bragging a little bit about our clients, showing their logos. And just before the header, we add a full width image. So that's it. Let's head back to our development site and build this one. So we can go to the homepage and just click Enable Visual Builder. And now we can delete this temporary content that we added before. So I just click the trash can. Okay, so we're adding the first part of content here, and that will be a row with a single column. And I will add some text for this heading. So before we do anything, I'm going to add the background image. So I will click the cogwheel in the section and we go to background. And first of all, I will choose background image by clicking the icon and add a background image. And here we go. There is our background image and we can see it immediately on the page. So it's a little bit light at the moment, and of course it's too small, so we will fix all that. So we start by fixing the overlay so the white text will be easier to read. So in order to do that, I will first change the image background blend from normal to multiply. Then I will go to the background color and add a black background color. Okay, so to make this a little bit transparent, I will click it and I will drag this bar to increase the transparency. Change the opacity. So this looks pretty nice, I think. And we can click Save Changes for now. So let's go back to this text module and click the cogwheel. So first of all, let's enter the text for your heading in the hero area. So I'll type create your, and then I make a shift enter to make a small spacing. And I type own website or highlight it and choose a heading 1. So this is our main heading. I can actually click now the pen or the pencil to go to the design settings for my heading 1. So we'll change the font to Cormorant Garamond. We should also center align it. So this is the design that we are going for. And we should of course make it lighter or white. And now we want to make it bigger, way bigger. I think we'll go for maybe 100 pixels. And then we can actually increase the line height a little bit. Maybe 1.1. Yeah, we can save it for now. We can now add the icon that's going to be above the heading. So I click the plus sign and I will add an image module. I click the image to choose something from my media library. And we can take this one. And to centerline it, I will click Design, Alignment, and Center. And I will just drag it to the top. So now it's in the right place. And now we'll add this text below the heading. So we'll click, and I will click the plus sign and add a new text module. And I can actually paste this text just to save some time. We'll do it here. And I will just click the paste as text icon. Oops. There we go. And I'll go to the design tab to style this. I click text, and I want the text font Carla. And I want it to be maybe 18 pixels. And I want it to be center aligned. And I want it to be not white, but light gray. But it's way too wide. I want to have some line breaks in here. Let's go into the sizing settings for this module down here. And I can set a max width of maybe 700 pixels. It starts to look a little bit better, but now it jumped out to the left because I set a max width. So then I have to set the module alignment to center. It looks pretty good, but I would like to add some extra line height here. You should never fear the white space. It makes it easier to read. So let's go to the text settings and maybe change that to 1.5, maybe something like that. I think that looks pretty good. And we could actually decrease the spacing here to make it look a little bit better. So the next step is to add our two buttons. So I'll click here to add a new row, and this row should have two columns, one for each button. And I will add a button module. And the first one should say read more. And you could link to somewhere in your website by clicking use dynamic content and page link. And then you can browse your different pages here. You can link to the About Us page here, for example. And let's go to the Design tab. So the alignment, I want it to be right aligned. And of course, this button should be left aligned, so they will be put in center. And we can skip the text settings for now and go to the button. And I want to use custom styles for this button. And styling buttons in Divi is pretty straightforward. We go to the button tab and we want to use custom styles for buttons. So we change the text size to 15 pixels. We change the text color to white, and you can see it in real time how the design is updated. We will change the background color from transparent to gold. And the button border width, we can keep 2 pixels, but we will change the color from white to gold. The button border radius is 3 pixels by default. That's what's creating this a little bit rounded effect. If we add 50, we have a very round button. It looks nice, but since we are using a little bit more sharp minimalistic design, I will set the border radius to 0. The button letter spacing will add 2 pixels between each letter. We use the button font Carla. And the font weight should be bold because we want the buttons to really stand out. And I'll add all caps to the button. We want to have a button icon on hover like this. And we use the default icon, which is this one, but you could change it here if you want to. And we only, let's see, we want the button icon to be white. And we want it to be placed to the right. And we only want it to be displayed on hover like this. If we would turn this one off, it would always be displayed like that. And we can see that it's a little bit tight here inside the button. It's a bit jumpy when you hover, so we want to change that by adding some padding. So I scroll down and I choose spacing. And we'll add a top and bottom padding first. Let's say around 10-12 pixels. and I click this icon to have the same top and bottom padding. And the left and right is what will add some more spacing for our icon inside there. So now if I hover, you can see that this icon fits in the button and we don't have this jumping effect. So now it looks really nice. So we are going to create a lot of buttons on this website. We love buttons. And we don't want to choose the font and the border radius and stuff all the time that we create a button every time. So we are going to create a global preset for this, so we can just have a template to insert each time. And to do that, I will simply right click up here in the purple bar, and I will say that I want to apply this style to my active preset. And yes, I am sure that I want this to be used for all buttons on the entire website. So now these settings are gray. And if I want to edit them, I can click here in the presets tab and I can go to the default presets for buttons and click the pen. And then you have this a little bit more metallic color, and we can go here and change, for example, the button text size for all buttons. So this is a really nice time saver, and we're going to do this for text modules and other modules throughout this website in order to make it look professional. So if you want to create a new button here, I just click the plus sign in this column number 2, and I want to choose a button module, and I click it. And then we can see that it already is pre-designed because we have our default preset. But we want to make some changes to this button. But first, let us change the content by saying contact us. And in the link field, we click dynamic content, page link. And we actually got this suggestion. I don't know if it was just random or if it understood that that was what we were looking for. Okay, so that was the content. And now we want to change the styling. So we have this ghost button look with just the white outline. So we're going to the button settings, and this is also something really nice with the global presets, that you can override them in specific modules or sections or rows. So if I want to have another, for example, background color, transparent, I can just choose that in this module and the global default will be overridden. I also want to change the border color to white, and there we have it, our second button. And maybe I want to save this preset so I can choose when I create a button if I want to have the gold button or the ghost button. So let's do that by clicking the presets tab. And I want to create a new preset from the current styles that I just created. And we can call it a white button. And I don't want this one to be default. I want the gold button to be my standard button when I create a new one. So I have to choose the white button when I create it. So we click the green Save Changes button. We click it again for the global settings. And now I can choose if I want to use the gold button, which have a star, meaning that it is our default, or if I want to use a white button. So this is a great time saver. We have one more setting to do, and that's to move this one to the right. We want to right align this button. So I hit the design tab and alignment, and I will set it to right aligned. And now it starts to look something like this, but I want to have it slightly tighter together. You see that this spacing is kind of big. So I can achieve this by closing the button settings and go to the row settings by clicking the cogwheel. And we go to design, sizing, and use custom gutter width. And if I increase it, you can see that the spacing increases inside of this row. And if I decrease it, stuff will be tighter. So if I just have 1, it will be 0 padding or 0 space in between. And 2, it will be a little bit tighter than the default, which is the number 3. So we'll go for the number 2 there. I think this looks really nice. So we have a nice starting point here with our hero area. So I will save this by hitting Command S to save or Control S to save on a Windows computer. We have a few more settings to do for our hero area. We want to add a little bit more padding and we want to add this divider effect. So let's start with the divider effect. So we click the section, cogwheel, and we go to the design tab. And there we open the dividers tab. And we want to add a divider to the bottom, so let's click the bottom tab. And here you can add lots of beautiful divider styles. You can use some clouds, maybe. You have some kind of flippy dividers, like this. But we're going for, let's see where we have that. This one, I think. No, this one is what I'm looking for. And there we go. Yep, that's the right one. And now we want to also add some padding to have some more spacing in this hero area. So in the design tab, I browse down to spacing and we have our padding top and bottom. So I'll add 100 pixels to my top padding. And since I have this divider down here, I'll add some extra, like 150. Let's go on and create our 3 blurbs, which are those boxes. So by doing that, I'm going to add a new section. We add a regular section and we want to have a row with 3 columns, one for each blurb. And we are looking for the blurb module. And this is how it looks like by default. And we can start by adding our text, the perfect feeling, as a heading. And then we have some lorem ipsum text. The perfect feeling. Let's add some text here. There we go. We can choose here if it should be an image, and then we can choose an image from our image library, or if we want to use some of the default Divi icons in the Divi library. But we'll use our own icon this time, so I'll click the image. Let's have a look in our media library. We could, for example, choose this one. Okay, looks pretty nice. Let's go to the design tab. Let's browse down to our text, which should be centered line, like that. And now I can click the header, or the heading, and we see that this is a heading 4. And I want to add the title font, which is Cormorant Garamond. And I want to increase it in size, just drag there a bit, so maybe something like that. We can then style the body text. That should be Carla. There we have that one. And we can change that one to maybe 16. Looks nice. So you can see that we have a shadow. They do also overlap the hero area. So let's do the settings for that. So we can start by adding the box shadow. And that's also under the design tab. And we go down to box shadow. And I'll use this one. So there are a few predefined, nice looking drop shadows here. We'll actually add the hover effect when we are in the box shadow settings, because as you can see, the shadow will spread a little bit and it will also lift when hovered. We need to click the hover icon and activate hover mode before we make the change to only apply it in hover. So this is how it looks in hover and this is how it looks in idle. And let's lift this one up. So we are going to use a negative margin. So we can first of all remove this unnecessary padding in our section and row. And now we can go in the settings for the blurb, go to design and spacing. And now we're going to use something called negative margin. So if I add a positive margin, we are pushing it down. But if I add a negative margin, we will lift it up. So I can also drag this one to save some time. We go here. And you can see that it's not really looking perfect because it's transparent. So we will fix that by going to Content, Background, and add a white background to our blurb. Starting to look pretty nice, but we want to add some padding inside here. So I go to the Design tab and Spacing, and we will add some padding, maybe 30, 40, top, bottom, and left and right. Looks really nice, I think. And then we had the other hover effect, that was the lifting. So you can see that it lifts a little bit up when I hover. So to achieve that, we will go into the blurb settings, Design, and Transform. And I will use the second setting, which is Transform Translate. And this is a really nice one. I can move objects around freely, like this. But let's reset that. So I just want it to be lifted up a little bit. So I will click this chain icon. So we want to connect the Y and the X axis. So I can just lift it up a little bit like that. So we set 0 on idle, and then we click the hover icon to active hover mode, and I click hover. And on hover, I want it to maybe go up like 10 pixels, making it really subtle. We don't want the visitors to be seasick when browsing our website. So this is how it will look on idle, and this is how it will look on hover. Okay, we don't want to do all this again, so I will just click this blurb and I will duplicate it once and twice. And then I will simply drag and drop the blurb into the right position. And I will do that once more. And now I can just change the content in the blurbs by clicking the cogwheel, and I can change the headings, for example, or I can go down to image and icon and just change my icon to something else. So there's one more thing that we need to do with these blurbs before we are finished, and that's the spacing or the gutter width. As you can see, they are pretty close together, and here there's a bigger gap. So we'll fix that by going in the row settings, clicking the cogwheel. We go to Design, Sizing, and use Custom Gutter Width, and we decrease it to a 2 to have this spacing, and they can take up a little bit more width as well. So let's click Exit Visual Builder, and we click Save and Exit. And now we can preview the result. So we have our nice header, we have our hero area with our beautiful buttons, and we have our blurbs with the shadow, and if we hover it, you will have a really nice hover effect. Okay, so we enable the Visual Builder, and the next step is to create this image and text and button area. And we are actually going to set some global presets for our fonts in the text module as well, so we don't have to set the heading font or the body text font. So let's create a new section, and we are going to create a row with 2 equally sized columns. So to the left, we are going to have an image. So we choose an image module and we click the image, and we will use these stairs. So that's pretty simple. So that was column number 1. Column number 2 will add a text module. Okay, so I'll actually paste this text to save some time. We go back and I will click the paste as text icon and we'll paste it. You can actually type this in non-capital letters and we'll have proper line breaks. There we go. Okay, so this is heading 4 that I have styled in a global preset. This is a heading 2, And this is bold body copy, and this is regular body copy. So let's make this one an H4, heading 4. This one is a heading 2. And this one we will simply make it bold by highlighting it and clicking the B icon. Okay, so let's style these formats. We click the first heading 4 to edit that. And I want this to be a Carla font. So we click that one. I want it to be a golden, like that. And the sizing, it should be pretty small. So I will set 12 pixels. And it should be all caps. So we'll click the all caps icon. And we'll also make it bold, like that. And let's add some letter spacing. Maybe 1 pixel will do. So there we go. I will also add 1.5 EM in line height. We have the heading 2. We'll choose our font Cormorant Garamond for that one. And we will choose the color 333 for those headings. And for the text size, I'll add 42 pixels. And for the line height, 1.1. We have the body copy, so I'll choose that one. And we will change that to Carla, like that. And the font size, I think 14 is way too small. So we'll change that to 17 maybe. But it's a little bit too tight. We need more line height. So let's change that to maybe 1.5 EM. And now we're going to save this as a preset. So we will then automatically save our H4, our H2, and our body copy. I just right click here in the purple bar and I say apply styles to active presets. All our text modules will inherit this styling. And while we add it, we can actually add some more formats. So let's say that we will add a link, maybe here. We click the link tool, just add something there as a URL. And now it's blue. I want to change that to gold, like that. And let's say that we want a subheader, an H3 header. So we add a spacing here and we have a heading 3. So this was a heading 2, this was a heading 4, and this will be a heading 3. So we change it to a heading 3 and we go to the design tab. We can actually click the pencil here to go directly, shortcut. And I will make this slightly different. I will choose that we should have Cormorant Garamond, but it should be bold. The sizing should be maybe 25 pixels, like that. And maybe 1.2 or 1.3, like that looks good. So now we have a heading 3. So this is kind of a style guide for us. So I can actually just right click the toolbar here and say apply styles to active presets. So we'll add the new styles to our text module. And then we'll add a button below. There we go. And we already made a global preset. So you can see now how we save time for each time we add these presets. Everything goes very much quicker. So it takes some time in the start, but then it just moves on faster and faster when you design with Divi. So let's save that one. And we actually finished with our image and text section. So we click here to add a new section. And what are we going for here? Yeah, we are going for this testimonial slider with this quotation mark. We have some italic text. We have the name of the client and we have those icons to change the slide. So this is one row with one column and we want to add a slider. This one, just a slider. Okay, and we got 2 sliders by default. We can add more if we want to. So let's head into the first one, and we can actually paste some text here. We have, the lorem ipsum text. I have to be quick, and we'll paste that in the body copy, and I'll click the paste as text icon and paste it. I will actually remove the title. We will not use the title. We will have the quotation mark there, and we will not have a button either. So I'll just remove the button text and the button will disappear. So there we go. Yeah, and we could actually change the background color. We want to use this dark gray. There we go. And I will exit the slider settings, and I will go to the section settings and add the same background color. There we go. So now we have this big slider area. Let's go back to the slider module and click the cogwheel, and let's head into the slide settings of the first slide. So we can begin by adding our quotation mark. So I hit enter, and I will add media, and I will add this image. I actually included a light gray quotation image in the zip file with the images. Find in below this video, or at DiviMundo.com, where you can download all these images and use them for yourself. So if you use a different design, you can use these light gray marks, but I'll go for the golden one. So I'll select it, and now I want to style this text. So I will mark it here, and I will make it italic. And I will then click the design tab, and I will go to the body text, and I want it to be pretty big. Maybe something like this. And then we need to change the line height. And then we have some other settings. For example, we have the navigation, the arrow color, and we'll make that one gold. And the dot navigation, we'll make that one gold as well. Let's go to the content. And now we want to add the name of the client below the text. So we are going to try some inline CSS for this. So let's say John Doe. And we highlight it, and we are going to change the color by clicking this text color icon, and just make it pink right now. And then we'll hit the text tab. So now I will show you how to edit the HTML and add some inline CSS in the editor. And here we can see that we have a span tag saying that the color is FF00FF. That's our pink color. So I will add our gold color here instead. There we go. Looks better. And I will actually add some code here, because we want the font size to be 12 pixels, and we don't want it to be italic. So I'll just remove these tags that happen to end up there. Maybe we want to add font weight bold. Okay, so I'm happy with that one. So let's head back, and instead of creating a brand new slide, I'm just going to delete the pre-made default slide, and I'm going to duplicate this one. And now we can edit it, and we can just change the text and change the name. Let's say Jane Doe there, for example. We could also change the names by going into the cogwheel, and in the bottom we have admin label, and I can call this one John Doe. And if I go back, I see that this slide is called John Doe, and we go to the next slider, and I can call this Jane Doe, and it's easier to find them. When you come back, you might have like 10 or 15 slides here. We have some final settings for the sliding movement. Let's go to design and animation. Automatic animation should be turned on, so we want the slider to go on by itself. The speed is now 7 seconds or 7,000 milliseconds. and we can maybe choose 5000 milliseconds to make it slide a little bit quicker. And now we also see our sliding icons here. I want the slide to continue when someone hover the mouse over. Okay, so that was our slider. Let's add the next section. So I'll start by adding one row, and we'll have text module. I'll type latest news and don't miss a thing. And I'm happy that we created the global presets before, because now I can just choose a H4 and then we have the correct format, and I can use an H2 for this one and we'll have the correct format. So now I just go to the design tab and text, and I want those to be center aligned. And now we'll add a new row with one column. So as you can see, we have 3 columns in this blog grid, but it's still just a 1 column row because we'll insert a blog module which includes 3 columns per default. So we'll add the blog module. And this is a dynamic module that will list posts, or if you have other post formats or custom post types in WordPress, and it will dynamically list the latest posts. So if I publish a new post, it will be displayed here on the start page or the home page. So I want to display the 3 latest news. So we'll add 3 instead of 10. And I want all categories to be visible. So if I don't choose anything here, it will display all categories. You can choose if you want to show the excerpt, and that's the preview text here. And we can change the length of the excerpt. But let's head to the design tab before we do anything else. And we'll change the layout, because we don't want this full width layout. We want a grid layout. So I will change it to grid. So let's go back to content. And we can actually change the excerpt length. It's a little bit too much text here, I think, to maybe 120. And under elements, I want to show the featured image. I want to show the read more button, which actually is a read more text to be more precise. I don't need to show the author. I want to see the published date, so that's fine. I want to see the category of the post, but I have no comments, so no comment count. I want to see the excerpt, but I don't want to show the pagination on this page. I just want the latest 3 news like this. Okay, let's go into the design tab to style it so it looks just like this. Overlay. We can add an overlay, so let's turn that on. I want the image to be a bit transparent when hovered. So the icon color I can set to fully transparent, so there will be no icon visible. But the overlay background color, I will choose white, and then I will click the palette and I will drag it down so it will have a little bit of opacity, maybe something like that. And I actually can't see it now when I hover, so we will have to look at it in front end in a minute. We can style the image, but we don't need to do that now. But text we want to edit. So let's start with the title text. So let's choose that one. And let's increase the size. And can add some line height, maybe like that. And then we have this text, the metadata, and with the date and the categories. I want that one to be gold. I want to use the Carla font. I want it to be in all caps. And I want it to be maybe 12 pixels. Let's make it bold as well. It will look good. There we go. And then we'll change this preview text, or the excerpt. And I want it to be a bit lighter. And I want it to be maybe, let's set the font first. Carla, of course. Even a bit bigger, maybe 15. Okay, looks good. We have this color, and we want to change the read more button, or read more text. So I want this one to be golden and centered and all caps, and also some space in between the letters, I think. So we have the read more text. I want that one to be Carla. I want it to be bold, all caps. I want it to be gold. And how about the sizing? Maybe that could be 14. We could add some spacing in there, maybe even 2 pixels of letter spacing. And it's kind of tight here, I think. I would like to add some spacing. Oops. But there's no really good setting for this in the Divi blog module, so we'll have to do a little hack. We'll use read more line height and just add lots of that. We'll actually add maybe 5 EM. So this is maybe not the proper way of doing things, but since there will be no line breaks in this text, I think this is kind of an okay trick to add some more spacing in this blog module. And now we want to center align this, read more text. And we actually want to center align all text in the blog module, as you can see here. So we'll do that by going to text and adding a text alignment center for all text. Perfect. Now I want to get rid of this frame or this border. So we go to the border styles. And it has by default a 1 pixel border, so I'll just drag that down to 0. And now I want to add some box shadowing to make it a little bit boxed in, because now it's just floating in this space. So I go to box shadow and I add the same box shadow as we used on the blurbs. So now they look really nice. And I actually want to use the hover effect that we used on the blurbs as well. So I go to box shadow blur strength, I click the hover icon, and we activate hover mode, and I just ramp this up to the top 80 pixels on hover. So here we have the idle and here we have the hover mode. Okay, I think the spacing here is a little bit too wide. I have to exit the blog module now, and I go into the row settings. Click the cogwheel, I go to design, sizing, use custom gather width. You recognize this from before, and we drag it down to 2. So now we have a little bit less space in there. If you want to, you could just add like a button module to all news, picking all news. You could link it to your news page by clicking the dynamic content icon, choose page link, and we will choose news. And then we could center align this button like that. We have this call to action area, and this is a quick one. So we add a new section, and it's a regular one, and it's a simple 1 column row. We can start by adding some text. And let's see, do you want to create something beautiful with us? Of course we do. So let's paste that one like that. Let's go to the design settings, text, and we want to center align it. We actually want to go to content, text, and we'll use heading 2 for this one. Okay, so before we do anything else, let's set the background in the section, because when we do this text white, it will be invisible on the white background. So we go to the section settings by clicking the cogwheel and background, and we'll add a background image. And let's see. There's a lonely guy sitting in the office, I think. So do we have that one? Ah, there it is. So we add that as a background image. And now we want to make it really dark. So we'll browse down, background image blend, and we set multiply. We'll go to background color. You recognize this from the hero area. We choose black. We click the color and we open up some opacity like that, maybe even less. We'll want to make the image really subtle. Okay, that's nice. Let's open up the settings for the text module again, and we go to design, heading text, and heading 2, which is the format that we are using, and we have the nice global presets for that one, but we want this one to be white like that. And also, we don't want it to take up all this space. So we'll go into the design tab and sizing. And then we could change the maximum width of this module to maybe 700. And we set the module alignment to center like that. Looks fine. And yeah, I think that's it for the text. And we'll add this icon up there and this button down there. So let's click there and we'll add an image module. And the icon, it's the houses. It's that one. We'll upload it. We go to the design tab, alignment, and center line it. We'll grab it and drop it on top of the heading. And now we'll add the button below the heading. So I click the plus sign and we'll add a button module. And I click design, alignment, and center. And of course, in the content tab, I can change the text and the link, but I'll let it be like this. So now I just want to make this a little bit bigger. So I'll click here and I'll just drag 126 pixels. And let's set the same, maybe 150 even, just to make it really big and nice. Okay, so there's our call to action area. And after that, we have our client logos with a nice hover effect. So let's jump into that. And we'll actually recycle some content here because we are doing this. So I'll just take this row, right click it and choose copy row. And then I'll click here to add a new section. And I will close this one. And I will right click and I will paste row. So that's a really quick way to recycle content. And we have top of the line. Oops, kind line. Our clients. And now I'll add a new row. And we'll add actually 6 logos. So I'll have 6 columns in this row. And I'll add an image module. And I'll click the image. And I'll choose one of my logos. And I will upload it. There we go. And now I want to create this nice hover effect. It should be darker when hovered. So we are going to use something that's called filters in Divi. So I go to the design tab and I go to filters. And we have brightness. So I'll click the hover icon and click the hover mode. And I will decrease the brightness on hover to 0, so it will be darker. I could also use lots of different features. Since it's black and white, I won't see too much difference here, but this is something we're going to use later on the About Us page. So this is one way of using it. So this is the idle mode and this is the hover mode. Okay, and I'll actually set the alignment to center just to make sure that it looks good in all screen sizes. And yeah, I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to copy this one by hitting Command C or Control C on my keyboard, and I'm going to paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, and paste it. And now I'll click the cogwheel to just change the logo. So this is a really quick process, and I choose another one, and I'll do the same again. So when you are getting up to speed with Divi, you can really build websites really quickly by using these tricks. Okay, and we'll change the 2 last logos as well. And the last one. Nice. And maybe a final change, because we can see that those are a little bit tighter together. And yes, you guessed it right, it's the good old gutter width. So I'll open the settings for the row by clicking the cogwheel, and I go to Design, Sizing, use Custom Gutter Width, and I'll drag it down to 2. So we have the last part, and that's an easy one. It's this full width image. So let's add that one. So I'll actually add a new section, a regular one, and we'll have one single row with a single column. And we'll add an image module. And I'll choose an image from my media library. And there we have that one. Okay, so it's not really the result that we were looking for. So we have to change some design settings. So I go to the design tab. I'll change the sizing. And I could actually choose force full width, but it won't change anything. And that's because the row is restricted here. So I'll go into the row settings. I click the cogwheel and go to design sizing. And I want to have 100% width. And I want to change the max width from 1200 pixels to 100%. So let's move this one. So now we're talking. It looks far better. So we just have this white space here that we want to get rid of. So let's drag that one and that padding of the section. And there we go. We have the full width image. And we can actually add a nice animation effect here. So if I click the cogwheel, design, I can choose animation. And let's hit that one. So we can make this slide upwards, like it grows up from the footer. So we choose slide. And we want the direction not to be center, but up, like that. And I want a little bit more subtle animation, not that fast. So let's bring it down to 7. That looks a little bit more nice, I think. And I want the starting opacity to be 100%, so it's visible from start.